Okay, good. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. We're here tonight to talk about a couple of topics, but we'll start with the housing code and zoning map amendments. And this is a briefing, so we aren't asking for any particular action, but we just want to let you know kind of where we're at, what we're doing. We've been talking to the Planning Commission about this for quite a while. And you also know this as middle housing. So these are the middle housing code amendments, which will allow us to expand how many units can be built on any particular lot in the city, and also expand some of the commercial opportunities in residential zones. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Cheney to walk through the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, this is really exciting work, actually. So this is one of our big steps to implementing the comprehensive plan. So we'll be implementing 2 land use designations and developing 3 new residential zones, R1, 2, and 3. But like I mentioned, this is part of implementing the comprehensive plan. And as you recall, there was a housing chapter. I'm going to read us our vision for housing in Burien. That all types of homes are affordable, abundant, safe, and accessible to all Burien residents now and in the future, regardless of income, race, family structure, household size, personal ability, or stage of life. So hopefully these code amendments will bring true this vision for the community as it relates to particularly to middle housing, which is housing that fits between,
Can I ask a quick question? Can we go back to that quote, just because I don't think I've ever seen this before? Can we go back to the quote really quick? When was this written?
as part of the comp plan. So it was approved or adopted in October
Okay,
last
that's
year.
what I just love the quote. I'm just stopping because I think this is fantastic. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm obsessed with it. Okay,
Mhm.
continue. Sorry.
I think it is a good, like a good representation of the work that went into the comp plan, and that like this is not a document that goes on the shelf. We should be looking at it and providing, or like looking to it for guidance on like the direction of what we should be doing and how we should do it. And at the end of the day, everything we do should be trying to implement or realize these visions.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, and thanks for bringing it up. As I was saying, middle housing is this housing that it falls between single detached dwelling units and maybe more moderate density multifamily. In Burien, middle housing will include a series of new typologies, so duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, fiveplexes, cottage housing, courtyard apartments, and stacked flats. So those are just typologies, and then we'll be regulating the number of units depending on the zone. But middle housing is different than apartments that we currently allow in our R4 and R5 zones, which are kind of like our multifamily zones and our mixed use zones, because all these housing types are going to be restricted in height. They're supposed to fit in the scale and the character of what exists as a single family neighborhood. So there shouldn't be a huge driveway with 10 parking spots in the front. There shouldn't be a 50-story or I guess 50 feet building. It should be capped at what the other neighborhood maximum height is, which is 35 feet. So that's what's important about middle housing, that it's really designed to fit into the infrastructure and the character of existing neighborhoods while providing more opportunity for housing typology. So this is just a quick summary of these proposed zones. So R1, 2, and 3. R1 is the least dense or intense. It has the smallest number or the smallest amount of total dwelling units you can have, but has the largest minimum lot size. The idea behind this is because there's a lot of areas in the city that are zoned for residential that have critical areas. They're on the shoreline or have erosion hazards, streams, wetlands, you name it. So R1 was intended to be the most restrictive residential zone and to be covering those areas that have barriers to development already. R2 is the kind of the next step up, which has more benefits or more units are allowed. You can have a smaller minimum lot size if you want to do a subdivision, encouraging more development. That takes on a lot of the characteristics that we, or the neighborhoods that are not adjacent to transit or adjacent to mixed use zones, but next to the R1. It's this buffer between R1, the environmentally sensitive areas, and kind of that next stage up. R2 and both R1 meet our minimum requirements for the city to do for House Bill 1110. R3 is going above and beyond what we're required to do. The idea is that R3 meets the criteria of what cities like Seattle or Federal Way or Kent or Auburn are required to do, and they're considered a tier 1 city. Burien, with our current population, is considered a tier 2 city, but since when we grow to a certain size, up to 75,000 people in population, we'll then be required to be satisfying the tier 1 criteria. And the idea is that, okay, let's try to introduce this in certain areas of the city and see how it works. And, with the idea that in the future, we may need to upzone other areas of the city that meets these levels of number of units. But yeah, and the map is the proposed zoning map for the areas, R1 being the lightest color, and you get darker in gradient to R3. One thing to note is that ADUs do count towards these maximum number of units. You may have noticed on that slide, there was a row that had bonus units and preservation units. So there's kind of this outright allowed number of units you can have. And then there are these bonuses or incentives. So when you're within half a mile of transit, if you're in R2, you can have a bonus unit. And if you're in R3, you can have 2 bonus units. If you'd like to, if you're not within a quarter mile of transit, you can instead get bonus units by providing income restricted affordable housing through recording a restrictive covenant on the property. And another thing that this is not required by state law, both of those incentives or those bonuses are included in House Bill 1110. But understanding the risk of displacement across the city and how valuable existing housing stock is, we also have proposed a preservation bonus. So if a site wants to preserve the existing housing, then they can get a bonus unit and increase the capacity, but that's only available in R2 and R3. So just an option to help kind of preserve the existing housing stock we have. You may recall, as part of Ordinance 849 that we adopted last year, our new mixed use and R4 and R5 zones included design standards, which were completely revamped and are great. And the map on the slide covers all those areas. Well, we want to do something similar, maybe not call them, we'll call them design standards, but they might not be in the same chapter, for our residential zones, R1, 2, and 3, these new zones. The idea is that we might not touch on all of these topics because a lot of these uses aren't going to be as dense or as great of an impact to the areas surrounding as multifamily and mixed use are. So with the middle housing design goals, it's more to influence the character of the development. So one of those being like preventing these mega driveways and big walls of garages, ensuring that there's accessible or pedestrian access. Another provision in House Bill 1110 is that we can't require parking within half a mile of a transit stop, a qualifying transit stop. And that doesn't mean that developers won't want to provide parking, but it does mean that we need to be thinking about the sites that are developed that aren't required to have parking. There should still be safe pedestrian access in terms of deliveries from Amazon or from wherever, your mail. Also, in cases of emergency, that an EMT can get to the house, so it needs to be of a certain surface, needs to be lit, it needs to be unobstructed. So these are considerations going into the design guidelines. They're not just, they include the visual appeal of the kind of evolving neighborhood and development of residential uses, but as well as safety and kind of practical concerns. And also other design features similar to like open space or recreation space. That's something that we are introducing that wasn't previously required for single family homes or detached dwelling units. But whatever we introduce now will need to apply to single detached dwelling units so that they're applied equally, and requiring on-site open space that can be provided in private open space, so as balconies or as rooftop decks or porches and patios that hopefully create a sense of interaction. Hopefully these create these indoor-outdoor spaces where you see your neighbors, you have eyes on the streets. So those are our open space requirements that kind of mimic design features because it might add balconies or rooftop areas or covered porches and patios that otherwise you wouldn't be requiring. So that's another kind of a design goal or feature that hopefully, as some of these sites be developed with more dense housing types, that you're getting to know your neighbor, or that you're at least maybe having more opportunities to interact with them or see them. I'm going to move on to a fun topic. I mean, this was fun, but also introducing commercial uses in residential zones. So as part of doing the middle housing work around all the residential uses, we got to thinking more about the things that we heard through the comp plan update and that we've heard from council saying we want our corner stores, we want our walkable and accessible and amenity-rich neighborhoods. And that's what this kind of section is all about, is allowing limited a level of commercial activity in these R1, 2, and 3 zones. And currently we allow commercial as accessory uses in some ways, like home occupations. That's not very customer serving though. So that this wouldn't fall under a home occupation or a family daycare or a bed and breakfast. This is more about a customer serving a neighborhood retail or neighborhood commercial uses. Like I mentioned, they should be customer serving, they should be limited in goods and services, and they should be small scale. So we propose limitations on the square footage, internal, and then also for restaurants or cafes, there can be, outdoor space, but that will also have size limitations. So it's not a nuisance on the neighborhood. The idea is this should be somewhere that you're walking or biking to, limited need for a parking lot or parking space, because every neighborhood should or could be eligible for some type of neighborhood commercial. Just as important about talking about what it could be is important to talk about what it can't be. So that is no drive-throughs, no industrial type uses, no bulk retail or storage, hopefully no big chains. We're hoping that really trying to gear the provisions or the regulations to encourage or incentivize small scale neighborhood commercial that are not auto-oriented, like I mentioned, somewhere you could walk and bike to. And so there's a series of these around. You may have seen them before, like we have the legacy storefront currently, but you may see sometimes houses that have been like single family homes that have been converted into a law office or converted into a accounting office, or this is the kind of thing that we're looking at. It could be conversions of existing structures or new commercial structures as part of a site that's in a neighborhood. There is a limitation though, specifically to R1, just because those areas are harder to get to, have critical areas, only allowing neighborhood commercial uses on corner lots. So that have good exposure to neighboring hoods, but then not requiring that same limitation on R2 and R3. Oh, I've probably already covered most of this, but the standards, hours of operation. So setting maximum hours of operations. This follows our home occupation requirements. So not operating before or after 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The maximum area is up to 1,500 square feet. Prohibiting certain types of deliveries. So we don't want big semis doing, inventory that can be disruptive to neighborhoods. So setting the time and the type of delivery that can be done. And it's also maybe easy to monitor as well. Like if there's a complaint, a neighbor can just snap a photo, and that's something that we could easily look into. Also areas, limitations on outdoor seating and exempting parking. So currently our requirements for new commercial uses, if the structure is less than 3,000 square feet, we don't require parking. With neighborhood commercial, they're all going to be half that size maximum. So they would fall under that provision of exempting parking. There are some concerns we heard, in regards to, well, what if there aren't sidewalks or certain areas? And I think those are important considerations. But as we looked into it deeper and reviewed some of the Department of Commerce's guidance, that kind of parking and infrastructure can be really expensive. And so weighing the costs and the benefits of adding an amenity to the neighborhood that is kind of like neighborhood serving, may be impacted by having too stringent or too expensive of, I don't know what I'm saying, infrastructure. Thank you. Sidewalks and driveways. There's one last point I wanted to make, and it's not about neighborhood commercial, but it's about the development of middle housing. So in R1, 2, and 3, all of these sites are still going to have to meet our minimum tree retention standards. And that's something that I heard in public comment earlier, and I just want to be clear that those standards are regardless are going to still need to be met. And in ways that we have exemptions from certain design standards or parking requirements when you can't meet your tree standards. So if providing enough parking is going to require you to remove a tree, then we would say we'd prefer that. All right, we'll reduce your parking standard or exempt you from that parking standard so that you retain your tree. So there are certain areas in code in which we're actively trying to support tree retention on site, especially as these new housing types come in. But that's all I've got. Let me know if you have any questions.
I just keep loving what I see out of our community planning, what we're working on, implementation of the comp plan, density, neighborhood businesses, transit. I mean, this is what we've all really wanted to see and what we've all really been working towards over the last few years. So major kudos to, I know we have some planning commissioners in the audience. They've been waiting around a little while. So major kudos to the planning commission, and major kudos to you both for doing a significant amount of stakeholder engagement. Coming back to us, tons of reiterating, which I'd love to see as well. I'm just very, very excited for when folks are starting to take advantage of this being implemented and when we can start hopefully seeing some more construction going on. I know the construction industry's taken a hit a little bit lately, but I think by having all these incentives and having all these opportunities, we could be a place where people choose to build more, and I'm really excited about that too. Any other thoughts or questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to say that was a really nice presentation. I could have told you what middle housing was before, but that illustration was, I thought, maybe the clearest I've ever seen of, it was like a little toy neighborhood, and over here is single family, over here is the multifamily, and it kind of really illustrated everything that could be in between, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate how clear you're being about using the comprehensive plan as a guide for things. I know that is what we're supposed to do, but it really helps to reiterate it, and that's been very informative to keep hearing how that is being done. I wanted to follow up really quickly on your last comment about trees and the tree code, and just ask, is that, and I'm all in favor of it, but does that mean that every new decision, because trees could be anywhere on the property, is that creating a great deal of work in those decisions, or is that going to be pretty streamlined?
Well, it's consistent with how we're reviewing projects today. So what it does help us do is work with applicants to potentially move things around on site to help save trees. So it really becomes a good conversation topic, having the code in place. So I don't see it as a challenge, but, well, it is a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. It's like the puzzle where you put all the pieces together. And I think the existing code is really good about, helping us balance all of that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Garcia.
That was a fantastic presentation. Great work. Great work, Planning Commission. Great work, you as staff. Great work, City Manager, keeping this on track. I think I also love the quote that we got at the beginning, but I think what I've seen in the past is that organizations, cities, counties love spending on quotes, love getting a consultant and feedback on quotes, but it's not, I haven't seen it as often where the actual policy and ordinance lines up to that code. And in this case, it does. As someone who wouldn't be here without middle housing, I live in a duplex. I would not have been able to afford to stay here for it, not for that. It's great to see it, and not just see a basic, but going above and beyond and planning for our growth, especially seeing that, we're gonna be close to 75,000 residents faster than we probably think we will. So already implementing that into the code is fantastic. One of the things that I think would be good for us to consider is, as more of these smaller missing middle or middle housing properties are being built, to make sure that we have some of the permitting fee revenue from these specifically be directed to code enforcement. Because I love what you did in setting different rules on what you can and cannot do, parking, uh, trees, but all those things are not easy to follow up of, even though it's easy to take a photo. To my knowledge, we still have just one Michael Amaya. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we only have,
We've got one more.
oh, great,
We've got a Condon who's
Great.
joined Michael, and he's here on a 2-year limited term contract, which we hope to be able to maintain if there's
Yeah.
funding at the end of the 2 years.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
So that's great to know. Thank you so much for this work. This was something that was brought up like 8 years ago when I was on the planning commission. So seeing this is fantastic. Thank you very much to both of you again, to staff, the planning commission, and to the city leadership. Thank you.